Welcome to METV. I'm Dee Bennett, and with me today is Laurel Lynch of Hope Family Services. One has only to look at the news to see violence is on the upswing in Manatee County. Our goal is to encourage those who need help to call, and those who want to help know how to do that. For those who have not heard of Hope, please tell me a little bit about the organization, Laurel.
I would love to, Dee, and thank you for doing this with me. Hope Family Services is Manatee County's domestic violence service provider. So our goal is to help those who are living with someone in intimate partner relationships that are not safe. We have a variety of services in order to help those people. What everybody sort of thinks about first and foremost is our emergency safe shelter. And that is our most critical service. But as you know, as a board member, not the only service that we provide, but it is the most necessary. It's the backbone of what we do. The other services won't matter one iota if someone's no longer alive. So our shelter is open 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. One has only to call when they don't feel safe in their home, and we can help them access us, get to us. The shelter's free, it's confidential. And one of the things I've learned recently, people still picture a Quonset hut with 40 iron beds and foot lockers, and what's it like? Tell me, is it a house? It is just a house. And it's a new house. We've just built it a year and a half ago, and it's 35 beds, and it's a big home. And there's no foot lockers, there's no iron beds like B-grade movies that we used to all watch about how they would keep lots of people together. It's just a house, and it's just a safe place with security. We have cameras, as you know, all around the building, and we just really want people to know that there's a safe place for them to evaluate their options while they're deciding what's their best course of action. With that, we have counseling, we have master's level counselors, we have support groups, we have services specifically for children. Unfortunately, children learn oftentimes what their parents role model. So we're trying to break the cycle in a much more long-term process. And we have transitional housing. We have a 24-hour helpline. We have a variety, what we call a continuum of care, from the first 24-hour helpline call right through to transitional housing that could be 6 months, a year, or longer if that's what somebody needs. So if there is a person who is suffering from intimate partner violence that needs our help, they just have to call, and somewhere in that continuum, we will figure out with them where they need to fit in and what they need.
This transitional housing, where would that be? Just local hotels?
Well, it depends on a little bit on what their needs are. We don't make that choice for somebody who calls on us. You've been in our shelter. Theoretically, the danger, that degree of danger is less than it was when you first came in. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have an injunction in place. Restraining order is the name everybody calls it, but the real name is an injunction for protection. And it's okay, you feel relatively safe going back out into the world, if you will. You have a job, you have some stability, kids back in school. We'll ask you to select where your apartment or your home is going to be. We get a grant through the Suncoast Partnership to End Homelessness. It's a collaborative project with Spark, our sister agency in Sarasota. And you decide, maybe you'd feel better closer to your mom and dad. Maybe you'd feel better if you were closer to your workplace. Maybe you want to be by the grocery store. That you decide. And then we work with you and your landlord together to make that work for you.
Okay. How do people find out about Hope?
Every quarter, we do an analysis of folks coming to our organization. We ask everybody who comes to the door, how did you hear about Hope? Just informally, how did you hear about Hope? How did you hear about Hope? How have you heard about this organization? And we document it. And then quarterly, we have a fabulous volunteer, Bill, who goes through these little reports and puts it all into a big spreadsheet for me. It is almost without a doubt consistent. I can tell you how it's going to flesh out every single quarter. Number one, word of mouth. Still, we've been around since 1979. We've had advertising budgets some years. We don't have an advertising budget another year based on the economy. Bar none, 40% of the people coming through the door, word of mouth, a girlfriend, their employer, they tell their pastor at church, who then refers them to us. And second to that is law enforcement. Law enforcement in Manatee County and everywhere in Florida, FDLE mandates that when law enforcement respond to a domestic violence call, they must give that victim a packet of information that includes the local number. So number 2 is law enforcement. And it goes down from there. Sometimes it's children's school, but by far, the number 1 way is still word of mouth. So we have to do a better job at spreading the word, because somebody may not know the name Hope. But they say to somebody at the grocery store, I need help and I don't know where to go. My husband's not so nice. My boyfriend's hitting me. I'm scared to ask for help. And if somebody doesn't know, well, it's Hope Family Services and here's their number, then that person might not connect, because in every town we have a different name. You know, you don't have to travel far.
I've noticed in restrooms you will find the name on the inside of the stall. Do people find out about that from there very often?
It's very high percentage. We get a lot of people. That comes actually after law enforcement. I was at the doctor's office and I went into the ladies' room to take care of business, and there was your number. The other thing, the barrier though, on a more practical level that we come up against sometimes, is that people don't know that they're abused. You would think with all the information out there, the internet, well, a woman said the other day, some of us are lucky in love and some of us are not. Okay, you can be unlucky in love and not be controlled by your partner, right? Domestic violence is about power and control, and there's somebody in that family who has excessive power and control needs. We all like to feel in control of our destiny. I like my husband to support my efforts and do what I want to do. But if he disagrees, I'm not going to hit him. That's excessive. And sometimes people, a young woman this morning, I did a presentation, came up to me afterwards and she said, well, I've never called Hope for help because I'm just verbally abused. If you could have heard the things that this husband says to her on a daily basis and has for years, and she has 3 children, her self-esteem was unbelievably low. And I said, this is supposed to be someone who loves you. You are just as abused. Probably we're not putting you in the shelter because you don't need that. You're not in danger physically. That's for people in danger physically. But how about some counseling? How about getting your kids, you've got 3 kids, how about getting them in for counseling so we can break this cycle? Because I know if my arm is broken, I can look at something and say, look what this person did to me. But if every day I tell you how rotten you are and horrible and nobody else would want you, and you know the litany of things that are said, how long before it takes its toll on your soul? And that's what I said to her. I said, and that's invisible. And that's actually harder to sort of put in the box that it belongs. You know, she said, well, I didn't think I was verbally abused. It was actually a girlfriend of mine said, he said, what to you? And said, that's abusive. You're not supposed to say that to your partner. She didn't really realize, because it had started gradually and gotten more severe as time went on. And so what's the difference if, oh, you just don't even know how to cook, versus now today, you're horrible, nobody else would want you, you can't leave me, I'll find you. And he actually threatened to kill her, and she didn't realize that that was, under domestic violence law, that's an assault if he tries to do it, and is a crime.
And I can see why the children need the counseling. I mean, this is all they're hearing, so they think this is normal. This is what they're going to grow up doing. I
am getting too old to keep doing it. I've done this for 25 years. I think about how old I'll be in 25 years from now. Somebody else has got to pick up the reins. But I'd like to think that we could put an end to it. And then there's no need for our services. And wouldn't that just be great?
Are things getting any better?
Well, let's talk about how we define better. We have a record number of people coming to us for help. I think that's positive. While we're all a little tired, that's good. That means the word is out there. I find it incredibly disheartening that we need these services in our community. Crime in Manatee County, just generically, is down, except domestic violence. We don't have the 2010 numbers cumulative numbers from FDLE yet, because we're just in the beginning of 2011. But we have 2009 and 2008, 7, 6, so on and so forth. 2009 was a record year for domestic violence homicide in Manatee County. We had 9 deaths in Manatee County at the hands of an intimate partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, some dating, married relationship, something, these people were together. That was a 250% increase over our busiest year ever. Now, 2010, I only know sort of anecdotally because I read it in the paper, I go to our files, I look to see if it's somebody who's our client, and I can only come up with 2 or 3 just as we've kept track during 2010. So it's going in the right direction. It's getting better. But really, this is preventable. There was a domestic violence homicide in Sarasota County just within the last few days. And I was at a meeting on Friday afternoon, and a person was recounting a story how in another meeting where she was earlier that day, someone said, well, people die every day. And you know me, I'm not really shy, and retiring, I couldn't quite keep my mouth shut. And I said, while that's true, God forbid I have a heart attack and I keel over, or I'm in a car accident, domestic violence is preventable. It's not like, oh, I just got a terrible terminal diagnosis that I can't do a thing about. This is preventable, and that's the difference between, oh yes, people die every day.
It sounds like Hope does a good job with intervention. Tell me about prevention.
I know you love prevention, because I know you love kids, and the teacher in you, you know, sometimes it takes us a little while to catch on. We've been patching up people and sending them back out into the world for a very long time. And we still have domestic violence homicide. So what are we doing in the bigger picture? Well, we have a children's counseling program, and we've also had that for years. In Manatee County, there's dedicated millage on those who own a home, like I do. You know, we have dedicated millage on our tax bill. That's great. And we have a fabulous children's program. We need to do more. Seeing these children once a week in counseling is terrific. But they've already witnessed the domestic violence. What are we doing to stem the tide with people dating? And I have to tell you, I am very proud of our Florida legislature. And no, I'm not trying to just point out how great our new Senate Pro Tem will be, but really, finally, we have legislation. It passed last legislative session last year that says school districts in Florida will, not maybe yes, maybe no, you must have a curriculum for grades 7th through 12th on dating violence. Bravo. Because where do kids really get the most consistent message if they're not getting it at home? School. Right. So you figure 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, that's 6 years. They're going to have to hear us talk about this stuff. And obviously it's age appropriate. So 7th graders might not get exactly the same curriculum as a senior in high school, who's probably knows more about dating than I do. So,
is anything being done at younger grades?
Well, we're going to do this first because it's going to take a huge effort. While the school board is mandated to have this curriculum, there is no mandate for organizations like Hope, Spark, and Sarasota for us to be the sort of the drivers behind that train. But we're the experts at this curriculum. We're the experts on the dating violence information. So what we're doing is, this is great. We're going to get our foot in the door. We've offered to do this for the school board. We will figure out how to pay for it. We've got a staff member that's, she's young and cute and darling. I'm always afraid if I walk in, oh look, here comes Granny, yay. Because you know how kids are. They think over a certain age, put her out to pasture. She's just, she's 20-something and looks like she's about 15, and she's going to do this school presentation. But then our next step is to look at how do we start younger. Because even 7th grade, I'm afraid, for most kids that's okay. But there are some, as you know from your teaching days, those kids are so much more worldly wise as 7th graders than we would have ever guessed. They've already seen it, heard it.
What can we do to increase awareness?
That is the $64,000.
I mean, being in the schools, that's definitely
I think
help.
that's a big step. I think somehow we have to talk about it more. There is still such shame and blame attached to being a victim or a survivor of domestic violence. I can't tell you how many people in a day's time will say to me, oh, 20 years ago, my first husband, so on and so forth. But I don't tell anybody about it. Why not? You have survived. Think of what you can do to help the next person who doesn't think she will survive. Why don't we talk about it? Why, when somebody, I had an occasion just yesterday, I was having a conversation with a woman about something totally unrelated to what I do. She said, where do you work? I work at Hope. Oh, you probably know my daughter. She is, I won't tell you what she called her daughter. She keeps going back to this guy. She does this, she does that. She gave me a litany of things that her daughter does. And I said, well, clearly you sound frustrated. I find it curious, though, that not once have you said in this entire conversation, why is it there are some people in this world who think they have to control their partner at all costs? Why are you focusing on her? So maybe she's making choices that you don't agree with. Okay, I got a news flash for you. And I did say to her, people make choices every single day that I wouldn't do, from driving like crazy people in traffic, cutting me off. I don't like that one. You know, who am I to rule the world? I don't get to do that. So people make choices every day. But what this controlling person is doing is most often illegal. You cannot hit your wife because she burnt the toast, because dinner's late, because she parked the car crooked in the driveway, you name it. That is illegal. And why don't we focus on that person? Remember, there was a time people drank and drove and there were no consequences to it. In our culture, in our society, nobody really got all out of shape because, oh, they're drinking and driving. And today, you wouldn't dare. Your name is in the paper, your insurance goes up, you lose your license. I mean, there's just a host of consequences. We as a community changed how we view drinking and driving. We said, no more. We're not, you know, if I'm sitting at a red light when we leave here today and somebody hits me, no one's gonna say, well, you shouldn't have been at that red light. Really? I was sitting at the red light minding my own business. But why do we still hold victims responsible, like they're co-conspirators in their violence? Well, she's a nag. Great. If that were a reason to hit somebody, every mother in America would probably get it at some time or another. Who doesn't nag on occasion?
I know a lot of people think, why does the victim stay? Why don't they leave? Why would they put up with that? Tell me some of the reasons why they stay.
Fear, first and foremost. You know Kim, works at Hope, friend of mine. If she were sitting here after 3 years in a terribly volatile, violent marriage that culminated in her former husband, who's now in jail for the rest of his life, trying to kill her and stabbing her multiple times, she will tell you, there were 3 years I was married to this man. The first year I thought I needed to do something. If I were thinner, funnier, cleaned the house better, fill in the blank. Second year she thought if only he went and got some counseling, wouldn't things be great? The third year she said I stayed because he had me convinced when he said, if you leave, I will find you, I will kill you. And she said, if I left, he'd have found me, he'd have killed me. And the proof is, when she did leave, he did find her, he did try to kill her. And killed her roommate, a girlfriend that was just staying with her. So leaving, statistically, is absolutely the most dangerous time for a person contemplating leaving a situation, a domestic violence or intimate, personal, violent situation. That's why what we place such a heavy emphasis on is safety planning. Safety planning. I mean, you can ask, you want to talk about nagging? That is one thing I nag about around the office.
Tell me about a safety plan.
If you come and talk to me at Hope, I don't know the person you're talking about. I've never met him, don't really want to, but you are an expert at what you live with every single day. You know what you're up against. He's the kind of person that takes your car keys so you can't leave, or dismantles your car in one way or another. We help you brainstorm ideas like, how about a spare key that he doesn't know about? What about if you're in an apartment complex, that you keep an emergency pack of information, all your important documents, that if you were to really leave, that you would need maybe at a girlfriend's next door. Or sometimes it's as simple as, you know, your husband doesn't flare up very often, but boy, when he does, it's really bad. You need to get out. So you have a 15-year-old daughter, you have a code word with her, and if she hears this code word, she knows to get out the door, take her cell phone, and call 911. Because if you say, I'm calling 911, he rips the phone out of your hand, or he throws it at the wall and smashes it, whatever. But it's a way to sort of have a dress rehearsal in a conversational way with somebody, and we also document it on paper so that they have it to refer to. Because you know, you don't remember everything you hear the first time you hear it. But this way, when it happens, you're not stunned going, what do I do now? Oh, right. A happens, B is my response. C happens, D is my response. And it just helps people feel a little bit more powerful in terms of their ability to stay safe and have control over what's going on with them, appropriate control. We don't want people getting killed. And it's really that simple.
Tell me where the funding comes from for Hope Family Service.
I mean, besides the part where we're standing on the street corner begging, I don't really stand on the street corner. I don't want the board of directors to
What percentage comes from the state? Do we get anything from federal?
We do. We get federal, state, and county funding. County is very generous to us. But, you know, who doesn't read the newspaper or watch the news? Less money in, less money out. That's not, you don't have to be a genius to know that. We're living in a recession. So there are fewer dollars in terms of the fixed funding sources like the federal government. The state is very good to us. I encourage folks who are contemplating getting married to put a hustle in it and get married. If it doesn't work out, you can get divorced because there's license fees tacked on at either end that help local domestic violence centers.
Fees.
Yeah, it's not judgmental. I don't really care if they live with someone or not, but get married because we need the money.
Right.
It's all about us. But 58% of our budget we have to raise in the community. So we have a variety of ways of doing that. We have a fundraiser that's coming up in March. We write small local foundation types of grants, bequests. Sometimes, you know, we've been very lucky, as you know. We've had donors who've been very generous with us over the years, who've passed away and left us maybe not, you know, their entire fortune, but enough that we've been able to start new programs and done some very innovative work because it's not restricted funding. When you get a grant from, say, the state, and they say, here's what you will do, it comes with, you know, you take someone's money, you play by their rules. So I must provide with the state money a 24-hour helpline, emergency safe shelter. The county says you must have, of your 35 beds in the shelter, 24 must be reserved only for Manatee County residents. Well, that's fine. That's why we always have more beds than the county says, because if somebody's from a neighboring community and their partner is a law enforcement officer, I don't want them to be killed in their county. We'll take them. We work back and forth with other domestic violence centers.
From whatever county.
That's right. So there are restrictions. So having unrestricted dollars, much more difficult to come by, and that's the fundraising arm of what we do. The United Way is incredibly good to Hope Family Services.
That's unrestricted.
Well, no, it goes to the specific programs, but I apply for it based on where our need is.
Oh, okay.
They don't fund organizations, they fund programs. So if I say, well, this year we're really going to have, we have a greater need, which we do, in our adult services, the safety planning, advocacy, all that arena, then in the application that's coming up in March that's due, we'll make a case for that. And we may or may not get, again, everybody's in the same boat. The requests far outnumber the available, the allocable dollars.
That's available. Tell me about the fundraiser in March.
Well, it's called the Black and White. Black and White Starry Night. Every year we try to give it a fun theme. Always black and white, but this year it's Starry Night, and we're hoping to decorate in a sort of Starry Night kind of way. It was a great idea when we thought of it 6 months ago. Now that I have to actually come up with some Starry Nights, I'm not sure how to do that.
This is being held at the Polo Grill. Do I understand that correctly?
The 18th of March. It's a Friday night, 7 o'clock. Because it's a Friday night, usually we start at 6, we're going to start at 7. So many people work, gives them a chance to get home, get organized, gives us a chance to get everything set up. We always have a very exciting live auction with some really great things. I can tell you we already have plane tickets. Southwest was very kind and donated round-trip tickets. And what else do we have? Let's see. Oh, all kinds of fun things. It's always a good time. People have a great time, and it helps help others.
Laurel, I'm sorry, but that's all the time that we have today. Please reach out if you need help and call 747-8499 or 758-6805. One call may save a life, your own. Thank you, Laurel. This has been so enlightening.
And thank you for sitting on the board, for helping with the black and white, if not chairing it most years, and for all that you and the other board members do. Because what I always come back to, really, you know, we can talk about hope and the services we provide, but the reality is domestic violence is not my problem or your problem. It's our community's problem. And only our community can really fix it. And so if there is somebody watching who needs our help, we so want them to call. We're free, confidential, and I would just encourage you, you are not the only one. Just make that call, please. It will save your life.
Thank you.